Hello there. Happy day or evening, depending on when you're joining me. If you are live while I'm recording this, it is probably morning. My name is Karen, coming to you from Salt and Sand Studios. Great to be here today. We are going to work on pigeon, and I'm not going to do the Sanskrit for it because it's super long and confusing. But many of us know and love pigeon, but it's also can be polarizing. So some of us are not so fond of it. Or maybe at one time we're less fond and now are fonder. But I recommend you have a block or a blanket or even a sweatshirt to kind of roll up to help you with it. We are, much like as the description says, if you're a runner, you stretch before you run. Well, if you're a yogi or yogini, you stretch before you stretch. So we're going to do some postures that help us work up to pigeon. We'll do classic pigeon and resting pigeon. And if that is not a possibility for your body for whatever reason, whether you have some issue with your piriformis or your psoas that prevents you from doing it, then you can do supine figure 4 on your back. You might notice the elephant in the room behind me. I'm trying to figure out the best way to have that represented. Maybe it's without the blankets, but it is a new exercise bike. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. We're going to get started with the Pranadhana Mudra. If you have practiced with me for more than a year, you have probably done this. So find your comfortable seat, sitting up nice and tall, maybe switching up the feet if they're in a very natural cross-legged way. Maybe you make it the less natural. Draw the pelvis forward. And let's shrug the shoulders up to the ears. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze them. Breathe in. Press them behind us and release them. Breathe out. I'm going to take the pinky fingers and the index fingers. Yes. And we're going to touch them together on each hand. We're curling the middle 2 fingers up to touch the thumb pads. So something like this. Yeah. And then it makes this little heart, which is kind of cool. And then we place the wrists as opposed to place the lists onto the thighs. That might cause the shoulders to shrug up again, so we're going to loosen them a little bit. The Pranadhana Mudra is the mudra of surrender. It is a mudra of releasing, as you might imagine. And it's all about the breath and the pelvis and the reproductive system and the hips as we get into cooler weather. By the way, I'm in Vermont and the weather is pretty cool this morning. Our hips start to get tight. It's also known in the Ayurvedic practice that this is where we hold fear and sadness and worry in our hips. And so this whole practice is oriented toward releasing that. So releasing what control we feel like we need to have, releasing any obstacles, which we'll walk through a little bit of a guided meditation there, releasing the need to do and know and rather just be. So if you will, a slight release of the jaw. Put the lips together, but don't press them together. You might have a little opening right at the front. A closing or downcasting of your eyes. And breathe. Maybe given the coolness, we add Ujjayi breath into this process. Slight constriction at the back of the throat. Not too pressing, not too loose. Breath makes a sound. And as you breathe, checking in with what is in your mind. Anything preventing you from being here fully. Maybe you picture what it is. Maybe you put a label on it. And breathe into it, seeing if you can soften it around the edges and let it go. Bringing your awareness right to the center chest, maybe into the belly and the hips to recognize anything you might be holding on to, any emotion, any sensation. Picture it or put a color to it or a label on it. And surrender, release, soften. Maybe easier said than done. And now consider some obstacle in your life. It could be something small. Maybe it's something physical, or maybe it's that you have a hook or negative response to a human being. Maybe it's monetary. So bring that to mind. Imagine now that that is a stone, maybe bigger than that, maybe smaller than that, maybe pebble, maybe rock, maybe boulder. As you stand in front of a very deep pool of water, that stone or pebble or rock or boulder drops into the water. And you watch it sink down, down, down. No need to hold on to it. No need to justify it or depend on it. It's now in the murky depths. You can't really see it, but maybe a little bubble of air comes up to the top, to the surface and breaks. You imagine a thud once this stone, rock, pebble, boulder touches the substrate of this very deep pool of water. And a little bit of that substrate loosens up and floats up far enough that you can see it. Dirt, tiny bits of dead plant life. Big breath in and a full breath out. Huge breath in and let it go. And one more time. Release your mudra, your hand gesture, and press the palms together. Lift the hands so that the thumbs come toward the center of the chest. Drop your chin a little bit to lengthen the back of your neck. And then make a little less space between your fingers if they were spread wide. Bring to mind here an intention. This might be an intention for right this moment, or maybe for this whole practice, or maybe it's an intention for your day or your week or your month. And even if we never think of this intention again until the end of the practice when you're reminded of it, just the fact that you are establishing it will color, will feed, will create a foundation for your entire practice. So go ahead and repeat it to yourself 3 times as I say the word resolve. 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 Let's celebrate this coming together over the interwebs, as it were with the practice of yoga, with our intentions, with our minds, our hearts, and our reasons for being here. We'll do so with the sound of an om. Cleansing breath first, a full breath in and out, and then an inhale. Ah. We're going to move into cat cow from a tabletop. Cat cow is one of the warm-ups for pigeon, but it's also a warm-up we generally use in this practice on a Saturday or whatever day you're practicing it. This yoga intermissions. Also a set of movements that you can do at home without any instruction. We find the shapes that start to open up the spine. Releasing the neck, creating space, exploring the belly when you take the cat by drawing the belly in. Feeling the purchase you have with the outer edges of the hands and the finger pads, with the tops of the feet. And on these cool days and on warm days, I like to warm up the larger muscles of the body. So we'll do so working into a balance, coming to a neutral spine. We'll float the right leg long off the mat, squaring up the hips, pressing the shoelace side of the left foot into the earth. Squeeze the glutes and the hammies, and float the left arm in front. If this does not work for you, feel free to place the left hand back onto the mat. We're reaching forward, we're reaching back with the heel, drawing the belly in and up, creating a little length in the spine. Exhale, knee to elbow. Inhale, extend. Taking the time, draw the knee and elbow together again. Breathe in, get long. Really work the belly, squeeze the glutes, reach with the heel, knee to elbow last time. Breathe in, lengthen out. Keep the foot lifted, place the left palm down. Sweep the right leg above the left over toward your left, but keep it away from the ground. And we take a peek over the left shoulder. Maybe we can see the toes, maybe we cannot. And then place the shoelace side of the foot on the ground outside your mat. Glide the front of the right hip toward your left heel. This has a bit of a feeling like a pigeon, but it is not a pigeon. In this starting posture, it's a little more gentle. Opening up the piriformis, the outer left glute, a little bit on the IT band. If you're up for a little challenge, you might tuck the right toes under, float the right knee off the mat, send your heel backward a little bit more. Ooh, yeah. Rise back to a three-legged dog. Draw your knee above your right elbow, round your spine a lot, drop your head. Inhale, extend. Knee returns to the mat. Hula hoop motions, a little left and right, semicircles, hip circles, whatever works for you here, just to find a little bit of extra movement. I've been liking the hula hoops for a few weeks. One day I'll actually work up to doing a hula hoop as opposed to just moving the hips in that way. Find a neutral spine. Left leg floats off the mat behind. Power it up like you mean it. Left kneecap toward the left quad. Right arm floats in front. Slow-mo, knee and elbow toward one another. Inhale, extend. Knee to elbow. Lengthen out. One last time, super slow-mo. Use the belly a lot. Inhale, get long. Hand returns. Leg sweeps over the right leg. Keep it lifted for a moment as you turn the head, creating this little C with the right side of the body. And then shoelace side of the foot lands onto the ground. Glide that leg backward so the front of the left hip is coming to the right heel. Forearms might draw downward. You want to be long in the spine and relaxed in the neck. After 3 breaths, if you like an extra challenge, left toes tuck under to float the left knee off the mat. The heel reaches farther away from you to create more of a stretch. Return to a 3-legged dog. Super slow-mo, knee above elbow. Inhale, lengthen up. Knee returns to the mat. Cats and cows, cats and dogs. Any kind of shape. I'm going to take a rolling tabletop. Into the cow, into the cat, rolling it. And one more time. Hands move forward a couple of inches. Fingers are super wide. Toes tuck under. We shift the knees off the mat just a few inches at the sitting bone. Energy comes toward the heels. And then slowly on an exhale, move to a down dog. Heels do not have to meet the mat. It's a direction, not a destination. Feet a little apart to give you purchase, and maybe you find a little pedaling helps here. Your upside down V with your chest energy moving toward your thighs. Breath in. Breath out, stillness. A lift onto the tiptoes, bend to the knees. Look past your hands and take a walk to them, or hop, or jump, or dance, or crawl. Feet land parallel to the outer edges of the mat, and we find a rag doll. If you have a grumpy low back, each time you lift up from your fold, you're going to breathe out and use your belly, as opposed to breathing in, which is a more traditional way. Find a halfway lift. Ardha Uttanasana. Breathe here, 3. Belly in, 2. Shoulders back. 1. Fold over. Breath out. Again, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And fold. One more time. And fold. Slowly rise to standing like you are the sunrise. Super heavy head. Rooting to lift up. Feet so connected to the earth. Crown of the head lifting to the sky. Mountain pose. Toes lift from the mat, spread them nice and wide. Starting with the pinky toes, bring them down one at a time. Float the arms out and then up overhead. Hands rest at the heart, palms pressed together. Hands drop, inhale, spread the arms wide, lift them high. Stay here for the breath out. Right hand drops to the side, get long on both sides of the body, breathe in. On a breath out, tilt over to the right. We're opening up the left side of the body, so start to feel that stretch all the way from the outer edge of the left foot to the pinky finger of the left hand. We're working to not super crunch the right side of the body. So we are lifting from the pelvis on both sides. Inhale, both arms lift up. Stretch out the wrists, bringing the palms together, interlace the fingers, reach the palms toward the sky. Bend your knees like you're in a chair pose, and then find a rounded spine, reaching the palms forward. Drop your head. Press to standing. Release the fingers toward the sky. Stay here for the breath out. Breathe in. Drop your left hand. Breathe in. Tall, tall, tall. Tilt on the breath out. Left side this time. Opening up the right side of the body. If you're gripping the mat with your toes, see if you can loosen them. Let go, surrender. Pranadana. Arms lift up. Find a forward fold over your legs. Take your time. Forward fold is also a nice prep, as was the stretch for pigeon, halfway lift. And a forward fold, step back, high plank. Powering up your plank for a moment before we slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Nose, chin, chest. Arms prepare for a sphinx, also, which is a prep for classic pigeon. So the elbows are right underneath the shoulders, fingers super wide. It's as if you're dragging the mat back with your palms and your forearms. We're pressing the pelvis down into the mat, but lifting the navel away. Heart reaches forward and up as if it could move through and past your thumbs. Shoulders away from the ears. Lower all the way down. Arms can move wider into a cactus shape and turn your head to one side. Press the ear into the mat and breathe. And see what it feels like to press the bony hips into the earth and still lift the navel even while you're relaxing here. Shoulders away from the ears. And turn your head the opposite way. That might feel different. Well, I hope it does, because it is different. And bring your nose facing the mat. And we'll take move into another sphinx. Placing the elbows underneath the shoulders. Watch how much you are activating your glutes. You want to see if you can loosen them. Dragging the mat back, dynamic tension there. Heart reaching forward and up, navel lifting. Maybe you feel a little stretch in the solar plexus as the heart reaches beyond the thumb. Some people might like to lift their head more. I find that it gives me a little bit of neck pain to do that. So I'm looking a little more forward and down. And we breathe here. Feel the power of surrender as you breathe into this posture. Come back to the image of the pool into which you dropped that obstacle. The pool of water now clear and flowing. And as you look into it, you see yourself clearly. You see yourself flowing all the way down to the mat. Once again, arms wider in a cactus. One ear to the mat. Press the ear to the mat. And turn your head opposite ear to the mat, breathing in and out 3 times. Forehead returns to the mat one more time for Sphinx. You can stay as low as the body needs. Dynamic tension. Loosen the glutes. Draw the navel in. Press into the forearms, sending the shoulders away from the ears, and the heart reaches forward. All the way down to the mat. This time, right ear comes to the mat. Take your cactus-shaped arms, make them a little bit wider. Ensure that the elbows are at the same height as your shoulders, so your right ear is on the mat. Left fingertips tent underneath the shoulder. And we use that hand in motion to push the body away. Lift the left leg and come onto the right hip. So we're opening up the right side of the chest, the shoulder, maybe the bicep. Your head might not remain on the mat, or it might. I am pointing my toes, my left toes. You might bend your left knee to open up the hips. And we come all the way on to the front of the body. Cactus-shaped arms again, left ear to the mat. Right fingertips tent underneath the right shoulder. Press the fingertips into the mat, use momentum, shooting the right leg a little away from the mat as you roll onto the left hip. Opening up the left shoulder, the chest. Maybe bend that right knee to open the hips a little bit. And roll back onto the front body, coming into a child's pose. Your choice, Balasana 1 or Balasana 2. Balasana 1 is knees together, but since we are working toward pigeon, my recommendation is wide-legged, starting a little opening in the groin, but certainly this beautiful lengthening of the spine, forehead on something, arms in front if they can. Feeling that breath rolling up and down the spine and stretching left and right across your low back, hip to hip. Return to a tabletop and go ahead and take your right foot, place it just outside your right hand. We're going to start to do a little bit of hip opening, a little more hip opening by rising up into Anjaneyasana. You should be just below or above the left kneecap. So I'm going to scoot my left knee backward a little bit. Shoelace side of the foot on the ground. Right angle of the knee. Hands can draw to your right thigh. We're going to press that thigh away. Reaching backward with the shoulders and forward with the hips. So think about the pelvis tilting forward as opposed to lifting the buttocks up and back. If you're not feeling anything in the front of your left hip, your psoas, your hip flexor, you're going to scoot the right foot forward a little bit. Press into that front knee or bend into that front knee a little bit more. And then press the shoelace side of the back foot into the mat and the heel of the front foot into the mat. And if you like to work this a little deeper, you can take a twist, bringing your hands to your right hip and dropping your chin. You could always interlace your fingers here or place your right thumb into the hip crease and draw the flesh outward. Let's move into our full Anjaneyasana with a bit of a back bend. So first, draw forward, hands by your sides. Find the space in the heart where you're going to lift it. Lower the shoulders from the ears, and then if you like, arms can lift overhead. This hands stay by the sides, palms are facing forward like mountain pose if they can. Draw the belly in and up. And hands frame your front foot to find your way into a half split, Ardha Hanumanasana. Full split being Hanumanasana, Hanuman Asana. Toes reach toward the torso. Spine is long. For me, I need a bend in my front knee, and my nose doesn't come anywhere near my shin. There's no prize for that. So think about safety and stretching, safety and stamina, safety and posture. I'm going to plant the foot on the mat and move it out to the right, maybe all the way to the edge of the mat. We'll take a twist by pivoting on the heel and bringing the right toes outward. Left hand stays just forward and below the left shoulder. And if you need to move your left knee around, feel free. The right palm comes inside the right thigh. And you press that thigh away. You keep the sole of the foot all the way on the mat. And twist over to the right, looking to the right toward the right elbow or beyond. Moving if need be. And shift the pelvis forward rather than trying to shift it down. Adding to a stretch in the hips, in the groin, maybe even a little bit at the insertion point, the upper insertion point or connection point of the hamstrings. Hands to the mat and return to a tabletop. We're going to bring the knees together and sit on our heels for a moment because we're going to find some kneeling cat-cows. So the heels of the hands into the hip creases. Reach the hands forward around the spine. Like you're massaging out your quads. Drop your head. Round that spine. Scoop the belly in. Inhale, heels of the hands draw back. We find a little arch to the back. Exhale, round, cat. Inhale, cow. And round for cat. Inhale, neutral spine. Return to a tabletop. The knees separate a bit. And this time the left foot steps outside the left hand. Shifting around on that back knee if need be. To rise up into a modified Anjaneyasana, hands on your thigh. I seem to be shifting a little bit over to the right, so I'm going to move my left foot out to the left. See if I can remedy that. And we're sending energy into the hip crease of the front leg, working toward a 90-degree angle of the knee, the shin and the thigh. Pressing the thigh away. Connecting left heel to the core of the earth. Connecting shoelace side, the top of the right foot, the back foot into the earth to open up a bit on the psoas. For me, that actually works into the quad as well. To deepen this, hands can come over to the left hip for a twist. And maybe the left thumb hooks into the left hip crease and draws the flesh outward. Chin can drop. If you're feeling a little wobbly, maybe the left foot should come out to the left a little bit more. NBD, no big deal. We find what works for us and we breathe for 3 more breaths. Hands by the sides, torso faces forward. Situate yourself. Maybe this is where you stay, or maybe the arms lift into a full Anjaneyasana, working toward a back bend. Pinkies spin toward each other. Lift from the pelvis all the way to the sternum. Tuck the tailbone forward. And half split here, Ardha Hanumanasana. And into our lizard twist. You might move the foot a little backward. Remembering here, we pivot on the heels so the toes point outward, but we keep the sole of the foot all the way on the earth. If you need to adjust to come above the back knee, feel free to do so. And press the knee away and back. Belly is not just hanging there, it's slightly activated. Pelvis moves forward versus downward. Hands down, toes point to the front, back toes tuck under. And we step into a wide-legged forward fold at the front of the mat. I needed several hops for that today. Doesn't have to be too wide. Let your head drop. Clasp your hands behind your head. Drop your elbows. Let the head hang loose. Press into the earth with all four corners of the feet to lift the hips toward the sky, but the knees could still be bent. Hands release to the earth, halfway lift. Forward fold. Step the left foot as far to the back of the mat as you can. And then spin that foot so the outer edge is parallel to the back of the mat. We're coming into a warrior two. Take your time to windmill up using the quads, the glutes, and the belly to rise up. This is still part of our prep for pigeon. We're not too far away from it now. Finding a juicy bend in the front knee, a powered up back leg. So really work the kneecap toward the quad and press into the outer edge of that back foot as if you could lift the inner arch away from the mat. Front palm flips to reverse. Dance this warrior side angle. Warrior two. Reverse, side angle, warrior two, hands to your hips, lengthen your front leg, pivot on your front heel so the front foot is now parallel to the front of the mat, pivot on your back heel so the left toes point to the back of the mat, bend your knee, and draw your way into warrior two on the side. It's like a magic. Knee moving away from the midline. Reverse your warrior. Side angle. Reverse. Warrior two. Reverse. Side angle. Warrior two. Hands to your hips. Press the legs long, pivot on the left heel so both sets of toes face the side of the mat. Then pivot on the front heel or the front toes so you can step up to the front of your mat. Inhale, float the arms high. Exhale, maybe swan dive or your regular forward fold. Halfway lift. You are correct. We are almost there. Halfway lift. And a forward fold. We're going to step back for our high plank. Now, oftentimes we come into pigeon from, you can drop your knees. We come into pigeon From down dog, if that is your preference, feel free. If standard pigeon does not work for you, you're going to come onto your back and take a different approach, which will be your supine figure 4. And from tabletop, you can do the same thing you would normally do from down dog, which is float the right leg high and then draw the right knee toward the right wrist. For me, not that simple. So we pivot the right shin so it's as parallel to the front of the mat as possible. The reason I mentioned the blanket or the sweatshirt or the block, by the way, make sure the back leg is lengthened. And you want to keep your hips square, so equilibrium of your weight left and right. My hips are tight, so in order to be safe, I place a block underneath my right glutes and a little into the hamstrings. You can use something less. I used to use a water bottle when I was a little more flexible. It's a handy use of a water bottle, but you can also stuff your sweatshirt or something underneath there. So the classic pigeon here is on your palms or your fingertips to find a heart opener. There's a version of king pigeon where you find a quad stretch and a bind with your arms and your left ankle. Not part of my own repertoire, but might be part of yours. So spread the collarbones here. Breathe in, draw the belly in and up. And for resting pigeon, the hands can walk forward. You might, as I like to do, bend your elbows and bring your forehead to the backs of your hands. And relax into the posture. This is the resting pigeon. And the reason we want the hips equally carrying the weight as opposed to forcing the right hip down or hanging out with the right hip up and no support is to actually stay safe, but also to find the full benefit, the full merit of the posture without tweaking or torquing the low back. You want to be loose in your neck. If you are in supine pigeon, it is your choice whether you draw this would be with your right ankle on top of your right knee. If you draw your left knee toward your chest or not. But either way, using your right hand or your right elbow, you're pressing the right knee away and down. If you can, in both cases, the right foot is active to protect your right knee. If you are in resting pigeon, the shoelace side of the left foot is on the ground, and you're going to check that it's not sickling. The foot is not sickling. So for me, my toes like to point in, so I have to point them out a little bit. We breathe here. If you're in resting pigeon or half pigeon, or pigeon as you might call it, the hands come under your shoulders. If you're on your back, remain there, but you can unwind from this. We're going to take this to the other side. For those of you who are facing downward, you're going to go ahead and tuck your left toes off the mat, float the knee, come into plank, drop into tabletop. Same thing, lifting the left leg, and then sweeping the left knee behind the left wrist, but it's outside the left hip. Pivoting or rotating the left shin as parallel as you can to the front of the mat. Lengthening that back leg, equilibrium in the hips, switching your prop if you need it, your back bend. If you are taking supine figure 4, go ahead and move into it on the other side. And we find resting pigeon if we are face down. If you stacked your hands on the right side, you're going to stack your hands the opposite way on the left. One final breath wherever you are. For those of you on your back, remain there and unwind, placing your soles of the feet on the ground and the knees bent toward the sky. If you are in pigeon, you're going to walk your hands backward, remove any props, shift onto your left hip, swaying the right leg around, and bring the soles of the feet to the mat, the knees point toward the sky. Commonality, wherever you are. And then if you are upright, you're going to come all the way down to the mat. We're going to work our way into a twist before our final resting posture. Simple twist today. Shifting the heels toward the bottom. We're going to shift the hips over to the right and come all the way onto the left hip so that the knees drop to the left. Arms plop outward, like a bird. Gaze moves over to the right shoulder or the thumb, even if the gaze is inward. If you like a deeper twist, the left ankle can come outside the right knee. That might not feel ideal after pigeon, but it is your body. And since you can see me, but I can't see you, I have no clue where your body is right now, other than hopefully feeling more open in the hips, a little more relaxed, a little loosened, released, surrendered to being as opposed to knowing and controlling and doing and worrying and fearing. Big, huge breath in and a full breath out. Bring the whole spine back to the mat. Shift the hips way to the left. You have to take a little extra shift. Drop onto the right hip. And this time the knees move to the right and the gaze to the left. Big, huge, clearing, cleansing breath. Spine shifts back to the mat. Make it as tall and straight as it would naturally be. Hug your knees into your chest. Give them a good squeeze. Knowing that you've done wonderful work today. Opening up the mind, the heart, the body. Maybe even helping with digestion with your pigeon pose. Knee circles. And then your final resting posture. That could be with feet on the ground or maybe sitting with your back against the wall. It could be Supta Baddha Konasana. Or maybe extending legs, extending arms, space in between. Shavasana, head is heavy, shoulders heavy, backs of the hands and the arms heavy. Hips sinking into the earth, calves and heels. Belly sort of feeling a little carved out. Breath effortless. Gently make your way onto one side, curling up in a nice tight ball. Revisit your intention here. And consider if it's your intention you'll take off the mat with you or something else. Press yourself up to a comfortable seat. Hands find their home together at your heart, eyes closed, chin tucked. We close our practice as we begin with the sound of Om. If you would like to take the Pranadhana mudra while you do that, feel free. Pinky fingers and index fingers touch. Middle two sets of fingers curl up and kiss the thumbs. And that little heart is placed at your pelvis. We're closing with Om by breathing all the air out of the lungs. We're going to send all the merit of this practice out into the world. Inhale. Hands press together at your heart if they're not. Thumb knuckles connect with your forehead. May you release your obstacles. May you release control, the need to know, the need to do, and be. Namaste. Cheerio. Great to practice with you. My name is Karen. If you have the funds, please donate. If you don't, we are here for you still. saltandsandstudios.com. And stay tuned for new schedule. But for right now, we remain at 9:30 Eastern time for our YouTube class. It's great to have you here. I will see you soon. Cheers.